Holmen, Indiana. It clings precariously to the underbody of Chicago like a barnacle clings to the rotting hulk of a tramp steamer. On the far horizon, beyond the railroad yards and the great refinery tanks, lay our own mysterious private mountain range. Dark and mysterious, cold and uninhabited, the steel mills stacked like malignant dominoes against the still gray skies. Early December had seen the first of the great blizzards of that year, the wind howling down out of the Canadian wilds a few hundred miles to the north, screamed over frozen Lake Michigan. It hit Holmen, laying on the town great drifts of snow and long story-high icicles and sub-zero temperatures where the air cracked and sang. Streetcar wires creaked under caked ice, and kids plodded to school through 45 miles an hour gales, tilting forward like tiny furred radiator ornaments. But over it all, like a faint, thin offstage chorus, was the building excitement. Christmas was on its way. Each day was more exciting than the last because Christmas was one day closer. Lovely, beautiful, glorious Christmas around which the entire kid year revolved. Downtown Holmen was prepared for its yearly bacchanalia of peace on earth and goodwill to men. Higbee's department store's corner window was traditionally a major high-water mark of the pre-Christmas season. It set the tone, the motif of their giant Yuletide jubilee. Kids were brought in from miles around just to see the window. Old codgers would recall vintage years when the window had flowered more fulsomely than in ordinary times. This was one of those years. The magnificent display had been officially unveiled on a crowded Saturday night. It was an instant smash hit. First nights packed earmuff to earmuff, their steamy breath clouding up the sparkling plate glass, jostled in rapt admiration before a golden, tinkling panoply of mechanized electronic joy. It was a good year, maybe even a great one. Like a swelling Christmas balloon, the excitement mounted until the whole town tossed restlessly in bed and made plans for the big day. Already my own scheme was well underway, a scheme whose Machiavellian brilliance and Olympian perseverance made that Christmas stand out among Christmases past.
The camera pulls away to reveal that Ralphie's rapt face to the beaming face of Red Ryder, who is hustling the Daisy BB rifle to aching kids everywhere. Camera pulls back to reveal that Ralphie is reading Boy's Life. Downstairs, we hear the hectic routine of a morning schedule. The omnipresent radio crackles in the background. Ralphie's father, hereafter known as the Old Man, roars dimly in the distance as he fights the good fight against the indefatigable Indiana winter. Ralphie's mother calls intermittently, the waning minutes before school deadline.
I remember clearly, itchingly, nervously, maddeningly, the first time I laid eyes on it, pictured in a 3-color smeared illustration in a full-page back cover ad in Boy's Life. Red Ryder, his jaw squared, staring out at me manfully and speaking directly to me, eye to eye. In his hand was the knurled stock of as beautiful, as coolly deadly looking a piece of weaponry as I'd ever laid eyes on.
Yes, fellows, this 200-shot carbine air rifle, just like the one I used in all my range wars, chasing them rustlers and bad guys, can be your very own. And has a special built-in secret compass in the stock for telling the direction if you're lost on the trail, and also an official Red Ryder sundial for telling time out in the wilds. You just lay your cheek against this stock, sight over my own special design cloverleaf sight, and you just can't miss. Tell Dad it's great for target shooting and varmints, and will make a swell Christmas gift. Make a swell Christmas gift. Make a swell Christmas gift. Make a swell Christmas gift.
A swell Christmas gift. Here was Red Ryder himself nailing me, his pal Ralphie with his calculatingly demonic underplay, knowing full well that it was not merely a swell Christmas gift, but the Christmas gift, the quintessential Christmas gift, the holy grail of Christmas gifts. For the first time in my life, the initial symptoms of genuine lunacy, of mania, set in.
We dissolve to the following, which is Ralphie's daydream fantasy. The camera pulls back to see Ralphie on one knee, his trusty Red Ryder air rifle at the ready. As camera continues to pull back, we see Ralphie's father huddle in the corner, his arms about Ralphie's mother, whose eyes roll with cosmic fear. At her feet, Randy, Ralphie's brother, is clasped in his mother's desperate arms, his fingernails poised before his chattering teeth. His eyes stare as if they beheld the coming of the millennium. Ralphie's father speaks.
Save us, Ralphie, for your mother's sake.
With Herculean calm, Ralphie turns to them.
Then camera cuts.
As long as I got old Blue.
The camera cuts behind what is obviously the kitchen sink of Ralphie's house. Slowly, Ralphie's face appears over the edge. The steely eyes survey the scene before him. Looking past the kitchen faucet and out the kitchen window, we see what Ralphie sees. At various points across the backyard, disparate men are creeping on their bellies across the snow toward the house. There are about 8 of them, and each wears a thin bandit burglar-type black mask, the kind that looks like goggles. They all wear striped shirts and carry blackjacks. One nears the house, 2 are slinking over the fence, one crawls through the garage door. He surveys the situation coolly. Then, fast as a whip snake, he leaps up and snaps off 3 shots. Bam, bam, bam. 3 bad guys leap acrobatically into the air, mortally wounded. The others stand up, stricken into dumbness by the sting of Old Blue. They race unceremoniously and plunge headlong over the fence and disappear down the alley. They cheer, the family cheer wildly, embracing Ralphie. Ralphie stands tolerating this stoically, but kindly.
You saved us, Ralphie! You saved us! We were all daughters, Ralphie! You saved us all!
And Old Blue. Of course, there was some that didn't want me to have Old Blue.
They looked down in abject humiliation under my stern but kindly reprimand. The truth had smote them. I turned away after a moment, staring into the danger zone bravely, heroically, with just a trace showing in my eyes of that distant hurt that was inflicted upon me by my now contrite family.
Suddenly, Ralphie is startled, and we hear a voice.
Ralphie! Randy! Downstairs in 2 minutes!
We realize Ralphie has been jarred out of his fantasy by his mother's voice. He leaps up and scurries to get ready. Randy plunges into the drawer and starts to do his little brother thing. 2 minutes mean 2 minutes.
Mothers know nothing about creeping marauders, burrowing through the snow toward the kitchen where only you and you alone stand between your tiny huddled family and insensate evil. There was no question about it. Not only should I have such a gun, it was an absolute necessity. Race memories of kid plots through the ages began to surge through my cortex into conscious strategy.
The camera follows Ralphie into his parents' room, where we see him pick up a copy of Screen Romances and slip Boy's Life between the covers.
My mother, grabbing for her copy of Screen Romances, would find herself cleverly euchred into reading a Red Ryder sales pitch.
Ralphie! Randy!
In the hallway, Randy and Ralphie down the hallway, losing Randy and following Ralphie to the bedroom door. He barges in, and we find the old man in the final strokes of shaving. He looks down at Ralphie. Ralphie cleverly puts the boy's life behind his back.
What you got there?
Nothing.
Nothing. The classic kid rejoinder of all time. If only the victims of the Inquisition had understood the power of that unassailable defense, the world would be very different today.
The old man looks back to the mirror to wipe the lather off. He walks from the bathroom.
Here you go.
The door closes. Camera follows the old man as he walks to the dining room table, sits down and unfolds his morning paper, immediately going to the sports page.
Son of a belly flop. They traded Dolbelski. I don't believe it.
What was that?
For Christ's sakes, the Sox traded Dolbelski, the only player they got, for Schottenhofer, a good, solid 187 hitter. He'll make a great White Sox.
That's nice. Ralphie!
Camera pans with Ralphie from the bathroom to the kitchen. He and Randy climb up to the table for breakfast. Randy stares at his food. Randy never eats.
My fevered brain seized with the effort of trying to come up with the infinitely subtle devices necessary to implant the Red Ryder range model air rifle indelibly into my parents' consciousness without their being aware that I had planted it there.
Says he saw some grizzly bears near Pulaski's candy store the other day.
My parents looked at me as if I had lobsters crawling out of my ears. I could tell I was in imminent danger of overplaying my hand. Casually, I switched tactics.
I bet you'll never guess what I got you for Christmas, Dad.
Let me see. Is it a new furnace?
My father was one of the most feared furnace fighters in northern Indiana. People in northern Indiana fought winter tooth and claw, bodily, and there was never a let up. That's why my little brother knocked over his milk. Indiana wit is pungent and to the point.
Hurry up. Time for school.
Yeah, I'm running late already.
Round one was over. Parents won, kids 0. I could feel the Christmas noose beginning to tighten. Maybe what happened next was inevitable. My mother, innocuously scouring a used oatmeal pot, suddenly asked out of the blue.
What would you like for Christmas?
Horrified, I heard myself blurt it out.
An official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle.
I was dead. Even before she opened her mouth, I knew what was coming.
Oh no, you'll shoot your eye out.
It was the classic mother BB gun block. That deadly phrase, many times before by hundreds of mothers, was not surmountable by any means known to kiddom. I had really booted it. But such was my mania, my desire for a Red Ryder carbine, that I immediately began to rebuild the dike.
I was just kidding. Even though Flick is getting one, I guess I'd like some Lincoln Logs.
I couldn't believe my own ears. Lincoln Logs. She'd never buy it.
They're dangerous. I don't want anybody shooting his eye out.
The boom had been lowered, and I was under it.
We hear the sounds of the old man being chased by a pack of hounds. The old man curses as he fights them off.
Get out of here, you dumb buggers. God dang, Olds is froze up again.
Some men are Baptists, some Methodists, others Catholics or Jews. My father was an Oldsmobile man.
Christ, that son of a bill collector would freeze up on the equator.
Little pictures.
Just at that moment, we hear a soft little puff of an explosion. The old man's ears perk up.
Wait.
He cocks his head to one side like a manic roadrunner. The sound comes again. A soft puff of blue smoke billows from the furnace grate.
Son of a bulge in my butt clinker!
It was the Indiana war cry, and he was off down the basement steps, knocking over ball jars and kicking roller skates out of the way, bellowing.
The son of a bloomin' onion has come out again. The dang clanky son of a beanie weed.
We hear the horrendous sound of the old man tumbling down the stairs and hitting bottom.
All right, you two, out of the door in 3 minutes.
My mother planned these tactical retreats whenever my father was about to go into combat with the Iron Dragon in the basement. In the heat of battle, my father wove a tapestry of obscenity that, as far as we know, is still hanging in the space over Lake Michigan.
Son of a bat, wretched, cracking, snacking, damn. For Christ's sake, open up the damper, will you? How the hell did it get turned up all the way down again? God dang it.
Mother flies to the kitchen and pulls the chain-marked draft. All is silent for a few seconds. Then suddenly a great roar and the sound of footsteps pounding up the steps. The door flies open and the old man emerges from a cloud of blue smoke like Mephistopheles appearing before Faust.
For Christ's sake, stupid, I said the god dang damper.
He turns and disappears into the blue cloud, yelling.
Call the goddamn office. Tell them I'm going to be late. God dang it.
Preparing to go to school was like getting ready for extended deep sea diving. Long johns, corduroy knickers, checkered flannel lumberjack shirt, 4 sweaters, fleece-lined leatherette sheepskin, helmet, goggles, mittens with leatherette gauntlets, and a large red star with an Indian chief's face in the middle.
What did you say?
We'll be late.
Just wait, Ralph.
I can't put my arms down.
You'll put your arms down when you get to school.
In Indiana, sometimes solutions are very practical. There was no question of staying home. Cold was something that was accepted like air, clouds, and parents, a fact of nature, and as such could not be used in any fraudulent scheme to stay out of school. My mother would simply throw her shoulder against the front door, pushing back the advancing drifts and stone ice. The wind raking the living room rug with angry fury for an instant, and we would be launched, one after the other, my brother and I, like astronauts into unfriendly space. The door clanged shut behind us, and that was it. It was make school or die. Scattered over the icy waste around us could be seen other tiny befurred jots of wind-driven humanity, all painfully toiling toward the Warren G. Harding School miles away over the tundra. All of us were bound for geography lessons involving the exports of Peru, reading lessons dealing with fat cats and dogs named Spot.
Flick, wait up. Wait up. What you doing, Flick?
What does it look like I'm doing? Picking goobers?
Flick was cool, even then.
Hey, listen, smartass. I asked my old man about sticking your tongue to metal light poles in winter, and he says it'll freeze right to the pole, just like I told you.
Ah, baloney. What would your old man know about anything?
He knows because he once saw a guy stick his tongue on a railroad track on a bet. And the fire department had to come get this guy's tongue off the track because he couldn't get it off. It froze right there.
I think he's right, Flick.
Ah, geez, you guys are real suckers for anything. My brother says that's no wives' tale, and so does my mother.
Yeah, well, she's an old wife, all right. She ought to know.
Hey, watch it, jerkhead. Don't talk about my ma.
Any reference to one's mother was like throwing down the gauntlet, no matter how vague or remote the slight. Just the mere mention of one's mother with any adjective in the dictionary, no matter how innocuous, was grounds for instant and ruinous vendetta.
He didn't mean nothing, Flick.
Yeah, you know I wouldn't say nothing against your mother, Flick. I was just kidding.
Yeah, well, just watch.
That simple phrase, yeah, well, just watch it. If only it had been understood and deployed by statesmen through the ages, untold mayhem and carnage would have been averted. Imagine Chamberlain standing up at the end of the Munich conference and glaring down at Hitler with steely eyes and muttering, yeah, well, just watch it. Do you think there would have been any invasion of Poland or Czechoslovakia or Austria or any World War II? Not on your blue-striped garters.
Yeah, well, your old man is pulling your leg and you're too dumb to know it.
All right, I dare you to try it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
says who?
says me.
Oh, yeah.
The exact exchange and nuance of phrase in this ritual is very important. One misplaced "oh yeah" or "says who" could immediately destroy one's credibility, demolish one's argument, and subject the luckless offender to immediate and prolonged ostracism.
I double dare you.
Oh,
Wait
Oh.
a minute.
We can just see enough through the boards to vaguely sense a figure moving on its other side. The music oozes up ominously. The ominous presence glides on. Camera tilts down slowly to break in the fence. We see a pair of broganed feet stop. The ominous music swells to a crescendo. The feet stand there planted menacingly as they tremble, wide-eyed. On the fence, and the brogans stand for one more moment, then move off arrogantly. Camera tilts up to see the figure disappear behind the fence. We hear a nasty, evil laugh sailing off in the wind. The boys, relief floods their faces.
That was close.
Let's get out of here.
At Warren G. Harding Grade School Day, snow covers the ground, ice sheets over the basketball courts. We hear the bell ring. Kids hurry. They huddle together conspiratorially, obviously passing something around. Miss Shields, a fourth grade teacher in the class, is the classic mold. She moves to her desk. The kids hurry to their desks.
good morning, class.
We hear the class answer in unison, but they sound funny, like a comic takeoff on a Japanese kamikaze pilot. Miss Shields looks puzzled for a brief moment, then slowly she holds her hand out, palm up, with studied, professional patience. Long shot of the class. Every kid in the class is wearing a set of wax teeth. You see them all grinning and giggling at her. They look like 25 demented beavers. Miss Shields wiggles her palm with subtle meaning. The kids, one by one, they file past, handing her the wax teeth. The wax teeth are handed over one by one. Finally, camera follows one hand down as she deposits the teeth in a huge drawer, the Friday drawer, containing an incredible collection of kid elfluvia. Miss Shields, she is calm and passive.
All right, class. Open your readers to page 32. As you remember, Silas Marner was
The kids recess in the drifted, dirty snow. Kids stand in little clots. Skies are darker than in the earlier scenes. We sense a blizzard on the way. The steady banging of a lanyard on the flagpole in the cold north wind provides a sinister ringing tempo to the scene.
All right, I dare you again.
Oh, yeah.
I double dare you.
Oh, yeah.
I double dog dare you.
Now it was serious. A double dog dare. What else was left but a triple dare you? And finally, the coup de grace of all dares, the sinister triple dog dare. Schwartz created a slight breach of etiquette by skipping the triple dare and going right for the throat.
I triple dog dare you.
Flick's spine stiffened, his lips curled in a defiant sneer. There was no going back now.
Close up on Flick, he stands a few inches from the pole, staring it down. He turns and gives the guys one last bravado look. He smirks, but a little less confidently.
This is dumb.
He laughs a bravado little laugh, turns and with utter disdain thrusts his tongue to full extension and plunges it forward onto the flagpole. It sticks, freezes solid as a popsicle.
Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh.
Jeez, it really works.
Nuh-uh.
Ralphie stands there, open-mouthed. The other kids, they stare dumbfounded. Click grunts and inchoate cry for help. Schwartz and Ralphie, now vaguely aware of impending official doom, back off. Suddenly the bell rings. Ralphie and Schwartz look at the school and then back to Flick. The bell rings like a shriek out of hell. That's it. Ralphie and Schwartz are off like a shot.
In Indiana, when the school bell rang, you went. Neither sleet nor snow nor frozen tongues stayed our headlong flight to your desk. Flick's predicament was no exception.
And as the wind rises and the lanyard bangs with a steady drumming beat, the playground is emptied except for a tiny huddled figure frozen to the flagpole.
Where is Flick? Did anyone see Flick at recess? Well, yes, Esther.
One little girl beckons to Miss Shields.
Esther Jane, yes.
The little girl points hurriedly to the playground.
What was that?
The little girl points again. Miss Shields looks out at the playground. She sees the figure. She walks to the window, looking closer.
Oh my God!
At this point, 22 children stampede toward the window, gawking out. Only 2 innocents remain uninterested. Ralphie and Schwartz sit unconcernedly, looking nonchalantly up at the ceiling. You could never tell they were involved. Miss Shield flies from the room. Schoolroom and yard, long shot day, looking past the kids out to the playground. Ambulances and 2 fire engines are just removing Flick from the pole. We hear the steady keening of sirens. Ralph and Schwartz turn and look at one another with doom on their faces. Close up on Flick, with bandaged tongue being led back into the classroom. He doesn't say a word, looking straight ahead as he moves to his seat and sits down. But Miss Shields looks directly at Ralphie and Schwartz. Has Flick squealed?
I know some of you put Flick up to this, but Flick refuses to say who. But those who did it know their blame. And I know the guilt you feel at causing this pain will be worse than any punishment you might receive.
Ralphie and Schwartz give each other a look which says everything.
Adults love to say things like that, but kids know better. We knew darn well it was always better not to get caught.
Schwartz and Ralphie stare stonily at Miss Shields, betraying absolutely no emotion. There is not a hint of their guilt.
Not only did you suggest this awful thing, but even worse, you left him there all alone in the cold. Now, don't you feel terrible? Don't you feel remorse for what you have done?
She pauses dramatically and subjects the entire room to her X-ray eye.
Now, that is all I am going to say about poor little Flick. Open your notebooks, boys and girls. I'm going to give you an assignment.
A low, sullen mumble rolls through the classroom.
I want all of you to write a theme.
A theme! A rotten theme before Christmas. There must be kids somewhere who love writing themes, but to a normal, air-breathing human kid, writing themes is a torture that ranks only with the dreaded medieval chin-breaker of inquisitional fame. A theme!
Entitled, What I Want for Christmas.
The clouds lifted. I saw a faint gleam of light at the other end of the black cave of doom. Here was a theme on a subject that needed talking about if ever one did. Already, a masterpiece was unfolding in my mind.
I want you to be particularly careful about margins. You will hand in your themes tomorrow, and I don't want to hear excuses. Now open your spelling books to page 21.
Another alley. Daytime.
Boy, did you see how it stuck?
Did it hurt, Flick?
Nah, I never felt a thing. It just caught me off guard.
Boy, you sure were bowling.
I never bowled.
Baloney.
Wait,
Ralphie senses something. He stops and looks in the direction of the fence.
run! It's Dill!
Grover Dill! What a rotten name! We were trapped! There he stood between us and the alley, Grover Dill, staring out at us with his yellow eyes. He had yellow eyes, so help me God! Yellow eyes! His cap slunk low over his non-existent brow, resting on his ears, which flared out like toadstools. His lips curled over his green teeth in a semblance of speech.
Hey, fat mess.
I turned in a blind primal panic and started for the fence at the end of the alley. No hope. There, curling up like a venomous Cheshire cat, was Dill's fierce little toady, Scott Farkas. We had it. The lines were clearly drawn. You were either a bully, a toady, or one of the nameless rabble of victims who hid behind hedges, continually ran up alleys, and ducked under porches. For some reason, Dill looked past me to Schwartz.
Hey, you. Come here. Me? Nah, your Aunt Tilly. Yeah, you get over here.
Obediently, hopelessly, much in the manner of a hypnotized bird approaching a snake, Schwartz goes to Dill. Dill methodically takes Schwartz's arm and twists it.
Gee, Dill, cut it out. Say uncle. Uncle! Uncle! Cry, baby, cry.
Dill was a running nose type of bully. His nose was always running, even when it wasn't. I did not know one kid who was not afraid of Dill because Dill was truly aggressive. This kind of aggression later in life is often called talent or drive. But to the great formless herd of kids, it just meant a lot of running, getting belted, and continually being ashamed.
Dill finally has twisted Schwartz down to his knees. He gives a shove and Schwartz sprawls in the alley.
All right. Who's next? Yeah!
The boys bolt like jackrabbits. Dill lets them go. Scott Farkas oozes down off the fence and joins Dill. They laugh after the fleeing victims.
You better run, you jerks.
I was an accomplished alley runner who did not wear sneakers to school from choice, but to get off the mark quicker. I was well qualified to endorse Ked's champion sneakers with, I have outrun some of the biggest bullies of my time wearing Keds, and I'm still here to tell the tale. It would make a great ad in Boy's Life. Many of us have grown up wearing mental Keds and still ducking behind filing cabinets, water coolers, and into convenient men's rooms when that cold sweat trickles down between the shoulder blades. My moment of truth was Grover Dill. But for now, I breathed easier.
Ralph's house, day. Ralphie heads up the stairs.
Would you like a glass of milk?
Oh, I gotta do my homework.
Ralph, stop right there.
She moves up the stairs and places her hand on Ralph's brow. No fever. She looks at him in puzzlement.
Ma, I gotta do my homework.
He dashes up the stairs.
No good'll come of this.
In Ralph's room, Ralph races to his desk, scattering books and papers. He sits down, takes out pen, and begins writing swiftly and frantically in his Indian head notebook. He looked over his shoulder as he writes.
Rarely had the words poured from my penny pencil with such feverish fluidity. I remember to this day its glorious winged phrases and concise imagery.
What I want for Christmas is a Red Ryder BB gun with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time. I think everybody should have a Red Ryder BB gun. They are very good for Christmas. I don't think a football is a very good Christmas present.
I was very careful about margins. I knew that when Miss Shields read my magnificent, eloquent theme, that she would sympathize with my plight and make an appeal on my behalf to the powers that be, and everything would work out somehow.
All right. So, house, dusk. Suddenly, Ralph hears a voluminous racket. He runs to the window and looks out. We see the old man is driving the olds up the driveway. He is pursued by at least a dozen flop-eared hound dogs, barking, yapping, howling, and leaping.
The Taylors, a quiet family who've lived next door to us for years, had moved out. And without warning, the Bumpuses had flooded in. In an instant, the entire neighborhood changed. There were thousands of Bumpuses, and they all moved in. Overnight, what had been a nondescript bungalow became a battered, hinge-sprung, sagging hillbilly shack.
The Bumpus house. The house is surrounded by a thick swamp of junk, old truck tires, rusty pitchforks, busted chicken crates, an old bathtub, and at least 57 ancient bed springs, 8 or 9 horse collars, chicken wire, baling wire, barbed wire, corn cobs, an ironing board, and a lot of big, tall water boilers with pipes sticking out. The old man is trying to get out of his car.
And then there were the dogs. They had at least 745 dogs. Now our neighborhood had always had dogs walking around, ordinary dogs with names like Zero or Prince. The Bumpus hounds, on the other hand, were just a great churning mass of tails and tongues and flea-bitten bodies. You could almost see the smell. And they loved my father. They ignored every other human being on earth but my old man. Every time he set foot outside, the whole tidal wave of heaving flanks and bloodshot eyes would descend on him. The trouble was that half of them were trying to lick his face, and the other half were trying to take off his leg.
The old man is fighting for his life and screaming at the top of his lungs. We can't quite make out what he's saying, but it sounds like...
I won! I won!
He's kicking at the dogs and backing up, holding something aloft. Ralphie turns and dashes downstairs.
The Depression days were the golden age of the newspaper contest, and the old man was a giant jackpot puzzle contest junkie. There was an endless parade of name the presidents, mystery movie stars, famous figures in history, and how many mistakes are in this picture, all offering $50,000 giant jackpots. For the cost of a 2-cent newspaper, countless millions struggled nightly to hit the jackpot. Every evening, the Chicago American was spread out on the dining room table. Paste pot handy, scissors and ruler, pen and ink at the ready. The old man clipped and glued, struggled and guessed. And now, the payoff had come.
Ralphie arrives downstairs as the old man lunges through the front door, closing it on the ears of one of the most insistent of the snarling pack. A dog howls in the background as the old man leaps about the living room, waving a telegram over his head.
I won! I won! I won!
What? What is it?
A major prize! A major prize! I won! I won! Look!
He hands Mother the telegram. The kids crowd around. We see the telegram and it reads, "Congratulations, you have won a major award in our 50,000 Great Heroes from the World of Sports contest. It will arrive by special messenger delivered to your address. You are a winner. Congratulations." The old man is now dancing a jig around the room. The kids are whooping. The dog, whose ears are in the door, is howling.
Tonight, it's coming tonight. Tonight, hot damn tonight.
What do you mean?
Tonight, it's coming tonight. It's coming tonight. I called Ernie McCluskey down at the freight office. It's there. He's going to send it out tonight. The telegram was late. The prize is already there.
The old man continues his jig.
Tonight.
He dances over to the door and releases the poor dog's ear. He sticks his leg out of the front door and holds it there comically.
Tonight. Take a bite, boys. Take a bite. It's on me. I don't care. Go ahead.
We hear a dog yelp. The old man pulls his leg in quickly and slams the door. He claps his hands together, suddenly serious.
It'll probably be a little while. Hang on, lost my spot. It's gonna take some time. Yeah, it'll probably be one of those Spanish adobe houses in Coral Gable, Florida. That's one of their big items, or it could be a bowling alley. Guy down in Terre Haute won a bowling alley.
They're gonna deliver a bowling alley tonight.
well, they could deliver the deed, for Christ's sake. I mean, I didn't think they were going to deliver the damn bowling alley. Well, it's going to be a while. Let's eat. I'm starving. Getting rich hard's work.
Kitchen, night. Ralph and Randy sit at a table. Mother scurries from stove to table, back to stove. Father reads the Chicago Tribune sports page. Randy sits with his feet twined around the legs of his chair, poking listlessly at his food. He begins to plow the surface of his mashed potatoes with a fork. The old man glances at his watch impatiently from time to time.
Randy, eat your food. Don't play with it.
Every family has a kid who won't eat. In our case, it was my brother.
Starving people would like to be glad to have that. Now you eat.
Randy begins to shape mashed potatoes into the configuration of a football.
Do what your mother tells you. Pass the red cabbage, huh? I'm going to give you something to cry about in 1 minute if you don't quit playing with your food. Now, stop fooling around and eat that, or you're going to be sorry.
Mother serves Father red cabbage and removes pan to stove, returning to take her seat.
Where's the red cabbage? I didn't get any.
Patiently, Mother rises and goes to the stove.
You could see that my mother had not had a hot meal in about 15 years.
Meatloaf, double beat loaf,
Randy fidgets, stirs milk with finger, pushes food from one side of the plate to the other, now arranging red cabbage in an artistic circle around his cold, congealing slice of meatloaf.
Knock it off. Eat.
Every meal went the same way. Once in a while, my father would blow his stack. Darn it, he'd yell. I'll make the darn kid eat. Where's my screwdriver? Where's the plumber's helper? He'd just pry his mouth open and stuff it in.
Mother eats hurriedly, pausing to wipe up Randy's spilled milk with her paper napkin.
My mother, though, was more subtle.
Mother looks at Randy.
How did the little piggies eat?
My brother was deep in his Three Little Pigs bag. He had a little golden book, and it was his favorite heavy reading material.
That's right. Oink, oink. Nice little piggies. How did the piggies eat? There's your trough. Show me how the piggies eat.
Randy waits for more coaxing.
Be a good boy. Show us how the piggies eat.
Oink, oink.
Jesus.
Nice piggy. Good little piggy.
Suddenly, the doorbell rings. The family freezes. After a long pause, the old man, in a hushed whisper,
It's here.
the bell rings incessantly.
What was here? $50,000? Fame? A trip to the moon? The end of the rainbow?
As one, they all dash to the front door. The door is flung open. A man stands in the doorway looking down at a bill of lading.
Frank Parker?
Yeah.
Sign here.
The old man grabs the pad and scribbles frantically.
Okay. Haul it in.
The family stands open-mouthed as two burly movers carry in a waist-high cardboard carton. Not a word is said as Mother directs them to the kitchen, where the box is deposited gently on the kitchen floor. As the men depart, an air of foreboding surrounds the mysterious object. Then the old man dives in.
The old man, his face flushed with excitement, fumbled in supercharged haste to lay bare his hard-won symbol of victory.
A billowing mushroom cloud of excelsior explodes into the air. The old man literally plunges into the carton, disappearing for a long moment. He emerges, holding aloft the prize.
Before us, in the heavy, fragrant, cabbage-scented kitchen, stood a life-size lady's leg in true blushing pink flesh tones and wearing a modish black patent leather pump with spiked heel. When I say life-size, I'm referring to a rather large lady who obviously had dined well and matured nicely. For an instant, we thought that we had received in the mail the work of an artist of the type that was very active at that period, the trunk murderer. We stood silent and in awe at the sheer, shimmering, unexpected beauty of the major award.
What is it?
Leg.
But what is it?
Well, it's a leg, like a statue.
A statue?
Our family had never owned a statue. A statue was always considered to be a lady wearing a wreath and concrete robes, holding a torch in one hand and a book in the other.
Yeah, a statue.
Oh,
Statue. We want a statue.
My mother was trying to insinuate herself between us and the statue.
Isn't it time for bed?
Suddenly, the old man stands up like he received an electric shock.
Holy smokes!
They all fall silent.
Do you know what this is?
Silence.
Holy smokes, would you look at that? I don't believe it.
What?
It's a lamp.
It was indeed a lamp, a master stroke of Lightolier's art. It was without question the most magnificent lamp that we had ever seen.
Aha! Here's the shade.
In an instant, the old man scooted atop the fulsome thigh, and there it stands, a full 4 feet high.
My God, ain't that great?
The old man's eyes boggled behind his Harold Lloyd glasses. He was almost overcome by art.
What a great lamp.
Oh, I don't know.
What a great lamp. Wow, this is exactly what we need for the front window.
He sweeps up the plastic trophy and rushes it into the living room.
Get the extension cord from the toaster.
Snap of a few sparks.
The snap of a few sparks, a quick whiff of ozone, and the lamp blazed forth in unparalleled glory. From ankle to thigh, the translucent flesh radiated a vibrant, sensual, luminous, orange pinkish nimbus of pagan fire. All it needed was tom-toms and maybe a bone or two.
The old man backs away in admiration. The leg lamp is ridiculous, but the old man is in his glory.
Hey, wait. I want to see it from the outside.
The house, street, night. The old man rushes out into the darkness across the porch. The Bumpus hounds are startled and caught off guard. We look out the window over Ralphie's shoulder. A crowd has gathered around the old man.
Move it a little to the left.
And Mother reluctantly complies.
Okay.
Exterior house, the old man moves further across the road. He pretends to be a casual observer, walking down the street. Interior, Mother and the kids stare out.
That's got it. You ought to see it from out here.
The entire neighborhood was turned on. It could be seen up and down Cleveland Street, the symbol of the old man's victory. My mother was truly on the horns of a dilemma.
Well, look at the time. Isn't it nearly time for somebody's favorite program?
She was right. Only one thing in the world could have dragged us away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window. Somebody looks after mothers.
Ralph and Randy race across the radio and snap it on. It hums to life. In the background, we see the old man re-enter the house.
Every day at 6:45 when I was a kid, I drop everything I was doing, no matter what it was, and tear like a blue streak through the alleys, over fences, under porches to get home to our Crosley Notre Dame Cathedral model radio.
Horse
What's that?
little shattered bones, the one with curly auburn locks. Who do I see? It's little orphan Andy.
They don't write tunes like that anymore. There was one particularly brilliant line that dealt with Sandy, Little Orphan Andy's Airedale sidekick. Who can forget it?
Orf, no Sandy.
Little Orphan Annie lived in this great place called Tompkins Corners. There were people called Joe Corntassel and Uncle.
In the background, we see Mother casually rise, walk over to the window, and draw the blinds and snap off the leg lamp. Father pretends not to notice. Close up on Ralph as he sits enraptured before the radio.
She also had this friend named Punjab who, whenever she was really in a tight spot, would just show up and cut everybody's head off. I figured that if there was anything a kid of 9 needed, it was somebody named Punjab, especially in our neighborhood. He wore a towel around his head. Immediately after the nightly adventure, which usually took place near the headwaters of the dreaded Orinoco, on would come a guy named Pierre Andre, the definitive radio announcer.
Fellas and
Gals, get set for a meeting of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle.
in the background, we see the old man, his casualness matching Mother's. He draws open the drapes and stands, pretending to stare out of the street.
Looks like snow. Kind of dark in here.
He snaps on the lamp. Mother pretends to be unconcerned.
Okay, kids, time to get out your secret decoder pen. Time for another secret message direct from Little Orphan Annie to the members of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle.
Ralph slumps.
I got no decoder pin. A member of an outgroup at the age of 9, and the worst kind of an outgroup. I lived in a non-Ovaltine drinking neighborhood.
All right, set your pins to B7. 7, 22, 19, 8, 49, 13, 3, 22, 1, 4, 19.
Pierre Andre could get more out of just numbers than Orson Welles was able to squeeze out of King Lear.
We see Mother rise and amble toward the window. She stops to pick a new magazine.
You're right about that snow, I think. Brr, it's chilly. I feel a draft.
She snaps the drapes closed. The old man feigns indifference.
The stage was set. This slowly evolving ballet of lamp was to continue for days, gathering momentum night after night. But for the moment, I was oblivious to all but Orphan Annie.
14, 9, 32. Okay, fellas and gals, over and out.
Ralph shows disinterest. The show is over. Ralph also looks vaguely troubled.
Then silence. The show was over, and you had a sinister feeling that out there in the darkness, all over the country, there were millions of kids decoding. Somewhere, kids were getting the real truth from Orphan Annie, the message, and I had no pin yet. 3 weeks ago, I had corralled the necessary Ovaltine 10 and mailed away for my decoder pin. Day after day, eon after eon, I waited. Waiting for 3 weeks for something to come in the mail to a kid is like being asked to build the pyramid single-handedly using the number 3 erector set, the one without the motor. Anyway, I was skunked for another day.
We fade out on the scene as the old man makes yet another move on the drapes. Interior classroom day. Ralph Schwartz flick Miss Shields extras. Children file past Miss Shields' desk, each carefully placing their theme's paper on it. Ralph adds his to the pile with a little flourish of implied victory.
I had done it. There could be no doubt that this theme would absolutely overwhelm Miss Shields. Not only was the Red Ryder 200-shot carbine air rifle irrevocably mine, but I began to envisage that Miss Shields, in her ecstasy, would excuse me from theme writing for the rest of my school days, or at least until high school. Such was the clarity and power of my prose that it seemed ridiculous to ask me to demonstrate it further.
The camera moves slowly into Ralphie's face as he begins to fantasize Miss Shields in Ralph's fantasy day. We see Miss Shields grading papers grumpily. She throws one down in disgust and scribbles a large F on it. She picks up another and gives it the same treatment, and another, yet another. She puts her hand to her forehead in despair for a moment. Then she plunges in again. She begins reading Ralphie's theme. Her face brightens. Her mouth flies open. She reads on. She utters an exclamation of joy and clasps the theme to her bosom, silent movie style. She begins reading again, barely able to contain herself. With every sentence, she exclaims in ecstasy. Finally, she can contain herself no more. She leaps to her feet, throwing the theme into the air, and races to the blackboard. She writes Ralphie's name on the board in huge letters and follows with this: Ralphie, A plus, A plus, 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 a huge A. And then she begins writing pluses after the A. She writes pluses until she runs out of the board, then continues writing them off the board and around the walls. The camera pans off Miss Shields to Ralphie, where we see him standing modestly, acknowledging the thunderous ovation of his adoring classmates. We hold on his face for a long moment, then dissolves back into reality.
Did you want something, Ralph?
Now,
Ralph?
just turning in my theme.
Ralphie backs out of the room, grinning sheepishly as Miss Shields looks after him quizzically. Exterior steel mill day. We're holding on the steel mill for a long moment, and suddenly in the foreground we see some figures blur by. It is Ralphie, Flick, and Schwartz. The frame is empty for a moment until Grover Dill and Scott Farkas race past in hot pursuit. Another empty moment, then Randy comes waddling by, arms still stuck out like a scarecrow.
Forgot who I was. Such was the stuff of Red Ryder mania. I took off to catch up with Schwartz and Flick. Now that my own Christmas booty was assured, I could turn my attention to the family gifts. And that meant, of course, the ever-beckoning treasures of Woolworths.
Alleyway day. We see the boys heading down the street. Randy whining, trails along with 50 yards behind, his galoshes open, wiping his nose on his sleeve.
Tell Mom!
Ralph and the others ignore him, moving in a sort of purposeless ramble, slowly working their way home, kicking at cans. Schwartz hurls a rock languidly at a telephone pole insulator, not even bothering to turn and see if it hits. Obviously, they do this every day. They are passing before a wooden fence. The old familiar music creeps up very faintly. Ralph drags a stick across the pickets, making a rasping sound. The camera pans down the fence. We see the familiar brogans matching Ralphie's stride for stride. The boys are oblivious to the menace. Such unwariness does not go unpunished in the jungles of boyhood. Camera cuts back and forth from the boys to the present, stalking them on the other side of the fence. Their aimless wanderings take them into an alley, at the end of which is a fence they must scale to continue on their way. As they near the cul-de-sac, the music rises. At the last minute, Ralphie senses something. He stops and looks in the direction of the fence.
Run! It's still.
But it's too late.
Grover Dill! What a rotten name! We were trapped. There he stood between us and the alley. Grover Dill staring out at us with his yellow eyes. He had yellow eyes, so help me God, yellow eyes! His cap slunk low over his non-existent brow, resting on his ears, which flared out like toadstools. His lips curled over his green teeth in a semblance of speech.
Hey, fat mess.
I turned in a blind primal panic and started for the fence at the end of the alley. No hope. There, curling up like a venomous Cheshire cat, was Dill's fierce little toady, Scut Farkas. We had it. The lines were clearly drawn. You were either a bully, a toady, or one of the nameless rabble of the victims who hid behind hedges, continually ran up alleys, and ducked under porches. For some reason, Dill looked past me to Schwartz again.
Sorry, just said.
Hey, you.
Hey, you, come here. Me? Nah, your Aunt Tilly, yeah. Get over here.
Obediently, hopelessly, much in the manner of a hypnotized bird approaching a snake, Schwartz goes to Dill. Dill methodically takes Schwartz's arm and twists it.
Again. Oh, jeez, don't cut it out. Say uncle. 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 Cry, baby, cry.
Dill was a running nose type of a bully still. His nose was always running, even when it wasn't. I did not know one kid who was not afraid of Dill because Dill was truly aggressive. This kind of aggression later in life is often called talent or drive, but to the great formless herd of kids, just meant a lot of running, getting belted, and continually being ashamed.
Dill finally has twisted Schwartz down to his knees. He gives a shove and Schwartz sprawls in the alley.
All right. Who's next? You better run, you jerks.
Okay, this is starting to sound like deja vu, guys. The boys bolt like a jackrabbit. Dill lets them go. Scut Farkas oozes down off the fence and joins Dill. They laugh after the fleeing victims.
59, 60, 61, and 62.
Okay,
That
Ralph.
would have been good to know.
Hallway of house family night. Ralph, Randy, and the old man stand waiting impatiently in the hallway.
If we don't hurry, all the good trees are going to be gone.
Mother comes racing down the stairs.
I'm coming. Goodness gracious.
Continuing.
Don't want to waste electricity.
Exterior house night. The old man gives her a look, but lets it pass. They all bundle their way out the door and pile into the olds.
It was one of those rare nights in Holman when the air was crisp and clean and so cold that the Bumpus dogs wouldn't even come out from under the Bumpus garage to chase my old man. And we were off on one of the great adventures of the year, selecting the Christmas tree. Yay. And then a ride around town to see the Yuletide splendor.
Christmas tree lot, family Christmas tree man night. Continued.
Buying the Christmas tree was always only after long and soul-searching discussion.
There's a bare spot on the back.
Yeah, it'll fluff out, lady, when it gets hot.
I don't know.
Is this the kind that all the needles fall out?
No, that's them balsams.
Oh,
Christmas tree is finally chosen. After a great deal of difficulty, it is securely lashed to the back of the car, sticking out of the trunk and tied to the bumpers with links of grimy knotted rope. Interior car, night. A sound like gadunk, gadunk, gadunk is heard. The car lurches.
Dang it.
what is it?
We got a damn flat.
Actually, my father loved it. He always saw himself in the pits of the Indianapolis Speedway.
To Ralph.
Why don't you go help Daddy?
It was the first time it had been suggested I go help my father with anything.
Narrator continues.
My old man's spare tires were actually only tires in the academic sense. They were round. They had once been made of rubber, but by the time they were in the dark bullpen of the car's trunk to be used as spares, there was so little tread on them that the old man used to say you could read the want ads of the Tribune right through them.
The old man busily fits jacks up car, begins to remove wheel bolts with wrench. Ralph watches.
What the hell are you doing?
Mom said I should help.
Oh, yeah? Well, listen, hold this hubcap. I'm going to put the bolts in it. For Christ's sakes, don't move it.
The old man struggles with the tire. Ralph stands next to him, holding the hubcap. Cars whiz by, throwing slush from under their tires. A giant semi roars past, throwing up such a plume of slush and icy, filthy water that Ralph flinches.
Stand still, dang it. Okay, now give me the bolts.
The old man reaches up and accidentally hits the hubcap with his hand. Picture slows down into slow motion.
For one brief moment, I saw all the bolts silhouetted against the lights of the traffic, and then they were gone into the snowbank, under the car, down the ravine, into the abyss.
Close up on Ralph in slow motion, the camera zooms in on Ralphie's face just as he's about to make an exclamation. The camera zooms past his mouth just as he is forming the word. Just at that moment, a truck roars by and drowns out the sound. We do not hear the word or see it spoken, but it is evident that Ralph has said the word.
It was the word. I don't know why I said it. It just came out.
There's a long pause.
What did you say? That's what I thought you said.
A long pause. Both figures are caught in the glare of the oncoming traffic.
Here, hold the flashlight.
Crawls around in the snow, looking for the lost bolts, muttering constantly. After an enormous struggle, he manages to retrieve 3 of them, replaces the bolts, puts on the hubcap, returns the jack to the trunk. After a brief tussle with the lashed down Christmas tree, Ralphie watches dumbly.
Okay, get in the car.
Interior car, night.
Do you know what your son just said?
Mother looked puzzled. Randy in the back seat perked up and leaned forward attentively. He knew I was suddenly in trouble, and he loved it. If he had a tail, it would have been wagging.
Your son said,
Mother sits bolt right up in shock. She turns to glare at Ralph. Randy snickers. They ride home silently. Ralph with the air of someone being taken to the gallows. Interior house, bathroom, night. Ralph is sitting on the closed lid of the toilet. Mother stands over him menacingly.
Now I want you to tell me where you heard that word. The truth now, where did you hear that word?
Mother sticks bar of soap in Ralph's mouth.
Now, you're not going to take that out until you're ready to tell me where you heard that word.
After a while, I got to be quite a connoisseur of soap. My personal preference is for Lux, but I found Palmolive had a nice piquant after dinner flavor, heady, but with just a touch of mellow smoothness.
Ralph sits on the toilet, bar of soap in his mouth. Mother stands over him impassively.
Life Buoy, on the other hand.
Oof. Oof.
Are you ready to tell me?
Ralph nods yes. Mother removes soap.
All right. Now, where did you hear that word?
Now, I had heard that word at least 10 times a day from my old man. My father worked in profanity the way another artist might work in oils or clay, the way Michelangelo worked in marble. It was his true medium, and he was a master at it.
I'm waiting.
But I chickened out. I groped desperately and blurted out the first name that came to mind.
Schwartz.
Oh, I see.
His mother puts the bar of soap back in Ralph's mouth. With an air of grim determination, she turns on her heel and goes to the phone. She dials, pauses.
Hello, Mrs. Schwartz? Yes, fine. How are you? Mrs. Schwartz, do you know what Ralph just said? Well, no. He said,
She puts hand over mouthpiece and whispers very faintly.
yes, that. And do you know where he heard it?
His father?
From your son.
Mother stands holding phone. We hear quick tap, tap, tap of Mrs. Schwartz's heels retreating suddenly, very faintly. There is a scream.
Retribution had come to Schwartz. Another shot of mysterious, inexorable official justice. Justice? Injustice? It is immaterial. We are all guilty in one way or another, and Schwartz was no exception.
Mother hangs up phone, returns to bathroom, removes soap from Ralph's mouth.
All right, now go to bed. I'm glad you finished your homework this afternoon because I want you to put the light off and get right into bed. No reading comic books, you're being punished. I'm going to come up and I don't want to see that light on.
Ralph goes slowly up the stairs. He lies forlornly on his bed. In the upper left hand corner of the screen above his head, we see a projection of what he is thinking. Exterior front walk day, close up on white cane. Tap, tap, tapping up front steps. Cane taps on door. Huge, tall door opens. Mother stands in doorway, looking down at the pathetic little figure before her. Father stands behind her.
Oh my God, Ralphie! Oh my God, what's happened to you?
Come on in, Ralph. Where have you been?
Why, he's carrying a cane. What's happened to you, Ralph?
Little Ralph says nothing, bravely taps his way into the house. Close up on Randy, looking horrified, peering out from under the dining room table. Mother leads Ralph to the kitchen table. Ralph sits bravely at table.
Ralph, is it something we did?
Ralph bravely smiles, shakes his head no. A tear runs down under his dark glasses.
Please, Ralph, we know it's our fault. What did we do? What is it? What has brought you to this lowly state?
Ralph is silent.
Please, Ralph, please tell us, no matter how it hurts. What is it? What did we do?
Ralph turns his head, fighting back the pain.
Oh, please, please. I must know what we did. What brought this on?
It was.
Yes,
It was
yes, yes.
some poisoning.
Mother sinks down beside father. They cling together.
My God, oh my God, I'll never forgive myself. How could I have done it?
Ralph puts his hand on his father's sob-racked shoulders. Randy clings lovingly to Ralph's ankle.
You're so
deserved it.
brave. You're so brave, Ralph.
There has never been a kid who didn't believe vaguely but insistently that he would be stricken blind before he reached 21, and then they'd be sorry.
Exterior alleyway, long shot, looking through some fence slats. Day. We see Ralphie, Flick, and the others fly past. The shot remains empty for a moment. Then we see Dill and Farkas fly past. Exterior school, day, snow and winds. Howl. Interior school, day. It is Friday. The children are filing into class. Every third, fourth child pauses to give Miss Shields a little gift, as is the custom. We see the booty piling up, mostly apples, a few cupcakes, some cookies, a solitary flower.
Thank you.
Suddenly, a pineapple, a very large and particularly tropical looking pineapple, is placed upon the desk. A pineapple in Holman during the Depression is a sight indeed. Ralphie's face eases up through the foliage on top of the pineapple. He grins a grin about as subtle as Oil Can Harry. Miss Shields looks at him in amazement.
I thought you might be getting tired of them same old stuff.
Thank you, Ralph.
Ralph slides away. Exterior alleyway, long shot. Same fence as we saw earlier. Day. Silence. Then we hear the pounding of feet. Ralphie and the others go thundering past. Silence. Then Dill and Farkas come racing by. Hold on the silence a moment. Exterior Ralph's house, long shot, day. Ralph comes dashing up to the mailbox and stops to catch his breath. Looking behind him,
Grover Dill was just another of the hostile elements of nature, like the wind and the snow and the boogeyman, and as such could be tolerated. But the agony of waiting for the days to pass so I could receive my theme in triumph was unbearable. I was nearing madness.
Ralph straightens up and looks into the mailbox.
But we are given that which we need to survive. Everything comes to he who waits.
Ralph takes a large envelope out of the box.
There are few things more thrilling in life than a lumpy letter that rattles. Even to this day, I feel a wild surge of exultation when I run my hands over an envelope that is thick, fat, and pregnant with mystery. I ripped it open, and there it was, my simulated gold plastic decoder pin with knob and my membership card. Be it known to all and sundry that Mr. Ralph Wesley Parker is hereby appointed a member of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle and is entitled to all the honors and benefits accruing thereto. Signed, Little Orphan Annie. Countersigned, Pierre Andre. In ink. Honors and benefits already at the age of 9.
Interior house, Ralph, evening. Ralph races to the radio and whirls the dial frantically.
My excitement mounted. Running waves of goose pimples rippled up and down my spine as I hunched next to the radio. A pause, a station break.
Oh, the little chatterbox, the one with Kelly on the lawn. Oh, do I say it's Little Orphan Annie?
Let's get on with it. I don't need all this jazz about smugglers and pirates. I sat through Sandy's arfing and Little Orphan Annie's perils, hardly hearing a word. On comes at long last old Pierre. He's one of my friends now. I am in my first secret meeting.
Okay, fellas and gals, get out your decoder pens. Time for the secret message for all the regular pals of Little Orphan Annie, members of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle. All set? Here we go. Set your pens at B12.
We see Ralph frantically setting his pen.
My eyes narrowed to mere slits, my steely claws working with precision. I set my simulated gold plastic decoder pin to B12.
All ready? Pencil set?
Ralph licks point of pencil.
Old Pierre was in great voice tonight. I could tell that tonight's message was really important.
7, 22, 13, 19, 8.
We see Ralph writing like mad, brow furrowed in manic concentration.
I struggled furiously to keep up with his booming voice, dripping with tension and excitement. Finally,
Okay, kids, that's tonight's secret message. Listen again tomorrow night when you hear who's the little chatterbox, the one with Kelly all day long.
In the interior of the bathroom, Ralph.
90 seconds
Evening.
later, I am in the only room in the house where a boy of 9 could sit in privacy and decode. My pen is on one knee, my Indian Chief tablet on the other. I'm starting to decode. 7. I spun the dial, poring over the plastic scale of letters. Aha! B. I carefully wrote down my first decoded number. I went to the next. 22. Again, I spun the dial. E. The first word is B. E. 13. S. It was coming easier now. 19. U. From somewhere out in the house, I could hear my kid brother whimpering, his wail gathering steam, then the faint shriek of my mother.
Hurry up. Randy's got to go.
Right out. Ah, gee whiz.
S. U. 15. R. E. Be sure. The message was coming through. Excitement gripped my gut. I was getting the word. Be sure. 14. 8. T. Oh, be sure to what? What was little orphan Annie trying to say?
Ralph scribbles more frantically, running hand through hair distractedly.
Ralphie, come on.
All right, Ma, I'll be right out.
17, 9, DR, 16, 12, 1, 9, in K, 30T, 32, OVA, 19, LT. I sat for a long moment in that steamy room, staring down at my Indian Chief notebook. A crummy commercial.
Mom,
I'll be right out, Ma, for crying out loud.
I pulled up my corduroy pants and went out to face the meatloaf and the red cabbage. Punjab had decapitated another victim.
Randy races past Ralph into the bathroom. Ralph continues on down to the kitchen.
The agony crept over me. Again, I hoped dinner would bring relief. Maybe there was a surprise.
Ralph peers into the pot on the stove.
Ha ha, fat chance, red cabbage. I didn't even bother to look in the oven where the perpetual meatloaf sizzled. My mother was hanging over her sink, swabbing eternally with her Brillo pad. If mothers had a coat of arms in the Midwest, it would consist of crossed plumbers' helpers rampant on a field of Brillo pads.
Did you wash up?
Yeah.
What happened next was rather unreal. My mother walked out of the kitchen with her watering can in tow, bound for her nasturtiums. There was a brief moment of silence, then a loud crash from the living room and a phony stifled gasp. Another split second of silence while the fuse sputtered and ignited, and then it began. The old man knew. He had been fearing it since the very first day.
The bathroom door flies open and the old man stands framed in the doorway, a wild look in his eyes.
What broke? What happened? What broke?
The lamp, said my mother in a soft, phony voice, feigning heartbreak.
The old man rushes headlong down the stairs and into the living room.
Where is it? Where is it?
There it was, the shattered kneecap under the coffee table, the cracked, well-turned ankle under the radio, that voluptuous poem of feminine pulchritude, split open like a rotten watermelon, its entrails of insulated wire hanging out limply over the rug.
The old man drops to his knees amid the debris.
I don't know what happened. I was watering the flowers and
The old man looks at her with a long moment, then speaks in a measured voice.
You were always jealous of that lamp.
jealous of a plastic leg?
You were jealous because I won.
That's ridiculous. Jealous? Jealous of what? That was the ugliest lamp I ever saw.
Now it was out irretrievably.
The old man draws himself up in his full height and glares at her with bristling dignity.
At least 10 years before the phrase was coined, my mother and father began the Cold War.
Get the glue.
We're out of glue.
The old man stood quivering with fury, stammering as he tried to come up with a crushing retort, managing only.
Damn it.
He turns and races from the house, nearly taking the door with him. There is silence for a moment. Then the door is ripped open, and the old man bellows.
Don't touch it. Don't touch that lamp.
And he wheels and slams the door. Silence. Dissolves to exterior, interior, house, night. It is later. We are looking at the house in long shot. We see the old man silhouetted in the window, trying to repair the lamp.
To this day, I can still see my father wearing his straw hat, swearing under his breath, walking around a shattered lady's leg, a Freudian image to make Edward Albee's best effort pale into insignificance.
Interior house, night. We see the old man bending intently over the leg.
Time and again, it looked almost successful. Then he would remove his hand slowly. Boing! The kneecap would spring up and sail across the room, and the whole thing would collapse.
We see and hear the lamp come crashing to the floor. The old man disappears out of the window for a long moment. Suddenly, he appears out of the front door, makes his way to the side of the house, and dumps the whole mess in the garbage. He marches resolutely back into the house. After a moment, we hear his voice ever so faintly.
I won't forget this. Ever.
The house sits there, tranquilly in the brilliant winter air. We hear the faint strains of O Little Town of Bethlehem. We dissolve to the exterior of Ralph's house. It's day. It is a raw, wind-whipped day. Cheery smoke pours out of every chimney except one, which belches out black, acrid puffs. Camera zooms into the smoke. We hear the old man roaring out his defiance of the villainous furnace. We see Ralphie and Randy being hurried out by their anxious mother. Ralphie flick the day. We see Ralphie pursued by the bowling ball, which is his brother Randy. They run down the walk and join Flick. They punch arms and then head out for school. We're on the school grounds. The boys, Dill, Day. Ralph and the others move into view. We see Grover Dill lounging about the ice-encrusted jungle gym.
Hey, Batman, come over here. I want to talk to you.
Ordinarily, if Dill so much as said hi to you, you felt great and warm inside, but mostly he just hit you in the mouth.
Can't, Grover. I got a report to Miss Shields.
The audacity of this ploy stunned everyone, myself most of all. There was no retreating, however. I knew I would pay later.
Ralphie runs for school.
Hey, you.
Dill is furious. He turns to the luckless Flick.
You. Get over here.
I felt vaguely guilty for leaving Flick and Schwartz to certain annihilation, but BB Gun Mania knows no loyalties.
Interior classroom, Miss Shields.
All right, class. I have your Christmas themes for you. I'm pleased. They were generally very good.
Flick files by. His eye is blackened. Close up on Ralphie. He virtually pants with anticipation, ignoring Flick.
I held my breath as the papers came down the row. I imagined Miss Shields was restraining her praise and deference to the ordinary intelligences of my classmates.
The hands of the kids passing the themes back along the rows. The camera pans with the hands close up on Ralph. He is turning red from holding his breath. Close up, the paper as they arrive at Ralph's desk, he extricates his and passes the others on. The camera pans up to his face as he unfolds his theme. His face drops. Camera pans back down to the paper, and we see the grade C pulsating in and out of focus.
My first impulse was that obviously a mistake had been made, but then I saw it. It leaped off the page and around the room and fastened itself leech-like on the back of my neck.
The camera cuts back to Ralphie's face, then tilts back to the paper and pans down and zooms to the fateful words. They pulsate in red. P.S. You'll shoot your eye out.
My mother had gotten to Miss Shields. There could be no other explanation. Was there no end to this conspiracy of irrational prejudice against Fred Ryder and his peacemaker? And gloomily watched other happier kids who were all going to get what they wanted for Christmas. Despair settled over me like a 300-pound lady sitting on my head.
We're back in the alleyway. The camera catches the forlorn figure of Ralph walking dejectedly to his house. We move in on him. As he kicks a slab of dirty ice down the sidewalk, Randy tags along behind.
Night falls fast in northern Indiana. Snow was drifting softly through the feeble yellow glow of the distant street lamps, while around me, unbridled merriment raged. I had all but abandoned hope, which may partially explain what happened next.
We're close on Ralph's face when suddenly a brackish snowball about the size of a basketball whistles into frame and smacks Ralph right in the kisser. It nearly knocks him off his feet. He clears the slush from his eyes and chokes back the tears that threaten to well up. He looks. Long shot. Grover Dill is seen walking in his cocky manner down the street towards Ralph.
Hey, fat mess. How'd you like your snowball sandwich?
Dill and Scott Farkas laugh their nasty little laugh as they approach Ralph.
Somewhere deep in the recesses of my brain, a tiny red-hot little flame began to grow.
Dill has strutted up and stands legs spread in front of Ralph.
Listen, jerk. When I tell you to come over, you's better come over.
By this time, my red demon had grown to man size and came exploding out of my eyes and ears and mouth.
Ralph explodes all over the startled Dill, knocking him flat on his back and begins pounding him.
Bravery does not exist, just a kind of latent nuttiness. If I had thought about attacking Dill for 10 seconds before I had done it, I'd have been 4 blocks away in a minute flat. But something had happened. A fuse blew, and I had gone out of my skull.
Ralph and Dill begin to fight in earnest.
I have since heard of people under extreme duress speaking in strange tongues. I became conscious that a steady torrent of obscenities and swearing was pouring out of me as I screamed. I could hear my brother running home, hysterically yelling for my mother.
Mom!
But only dimly. Dill fought back like a fiend. But I guess it was the first time he'd ever met face to face with an unleashed Tasmanian devil.
We see Ralph's mother arriving.
I continued to swear fantastically as though I had no control over it.
Jack,
I was conscious of it, and yet it was as though it was coming from something or someone outside of me.
Boys continue to fight insanely. Dill, by this time, is wailing hysterically. This has never happened to him before. They drag the two kids apart amid a great ring of surging grown-ups and exultant, scared kids who know more about what is happening than the mothers and fathers ever could. Ralphie's mother looks at him for a long moment.
What did you say?
That's all. There was a funny look on my face at that instant. All thought of Grover Dill disappeared from what was left of my mind, and all I could think of was the incredible shame of that unbelievable tornado of obscenity I had sprayed over the neighborhood.
We dissolve to the interior of Ralph's house in dusk.
I got into the house in a daze. My mother put water on me in the bathroom, pouring it over my head and dabbing at my eyes, which were puffed and red from hysteria.
You'd better go in and lie down on the daybed. Take it easy. Just go in and lie down.
In Ralph's bedroom, dusk.
The light was getting purple and soft outside. Almost time for my father to come home from work. I was just lying there.
There's a close-up of Randy under the sink.
My kid brother by now was under the sink in the john, hiding among the mops, mewing occasionally. I heard the car roar up the driveway, and a wave of terror broke over me. I heard him in the kitchen now.
Supper's ready. Come on, kids, wash up.
I painfully dragged myself off the daybed and sneaked along the woodwork under the buffet, skulking into the bathroom. My kid brother and I washed together over the sink. He said nothing.
Ralph walks into the kitchen and sits down.
Well, what happened today?
Here it comes. There was a short pause, and then my mother said,
Oh, not much. Ralph had a little fight.
Fight? What kind of fight?
Oh, you know how kids are.
the axe is poised over my naked neck. There's no way out.
It wasn't much. I gave him a talking to. By the way, I see the Bears are playing Green Bay on Sunday.
Mother resumes her endless table to stove to refrigerator to table to stove treadmill.
Yeah, Zadok has tickets. Boy, I wish I did. Oh well, you'd freeze your keister off out there.
Father shovels in more meatloaf.
I slowly began to realize that I was not about to be destroyed.
Mother, leaning over to serve more red cabbage to father, casually leans her arm against Ralph's shoulder and gives him a friendly, understanding little bump. Father does not notice.
From then on, things were different between me and my mother.
And Ralph resumes eating, this time as though he were actually tasting the food. Mother goes from table to stove. Father eats Randy wines. Life is back to normal. The interior bedroom of Ralph's bedroom at night, in the night somewhere. Ralph lies in bed.
The cold air blew the curtains back and forth as we caught the tail of a wind from the great north woods, the wilderness at the head of the lake. Both of us rested quietly, me and my little red-eyed, fanged, furry Tasmanian devil. We rested for the time being.
The exterior of Holman Street, family, crowd, and night. We see an extreme close-up of a huge Santa's head. It appears to be bobbing along in the air. Camera pulls back and we realize that what we have been seeing was a huge rubber Santa. We now realize we are seeing the Holman Christmas parade. Camera pans and zooms to Ralph and the family watching the parade flow by. Jingle bells fills the air.
I had awakened that morning with the glowing realization that all was not yet lost. There was one last hope, one appeal, as yet unfiled, one glorious, maddening ray of daisy sunshine that had as yet not shone forth. The big man himself, number one, the head honcho, the connection, Santa Claus. Now it is well known that foolish men stuff themselves with pillows and other such devices and run around ringing bells in the street in order to siphon off some of the Christmas largesse. But it is equally well known that the real Santa Claus can be found at Higbee's department store in Holman, Indiana. And this is the official court of last appeal.
In Higbee's, Randy, Ralph, mother and father are carried forward by the waves of maddened shoppers. They pause by a counter, confer briefly, heads together. We do not hear what is being said, but then mother and father go off in the direction of the men's department, leaving their children to be abducted. Camera stays with Ralph and Randy as they get on the end of the long line of nervous, fidgeting, greedy urchins waiting to see Santa Claus.
The line waiting to see Santa Claus stretched back at least to Terre Haute, and I was at the end of it, and closing time of 10 o'clock was racing nearer.
The narrator continues.
It was not easy to disbelieve fully in Santa Claus because there wasn't much else to believe in. And there were many theological arguments over the nature of, the existence of, the affirmation and denial of his existence.
The shoving, restless, sniffling, whining line slowly inches forward. Far ahead, we see a gigantic snowy throne framed with red and white candy canes under a suspended squadron of plastic angels blowing silver trumpets. The line slowly moves forward. We see a close-up of the store clock. It's 9:45.
Most of us were scoffers, but moments before 0 hour, with the air pulsing to the strains of We Three Kings of Orient Are, the store windows garlanded with red and green wreaths, and the toy department bristling with shiny, flexible flyers, there were few who dared to disbelieve.
We see Ralph's point of view, a glowing golden grotto at the top of a high ramp. Ramp, seen through Ralph's eyes, is exaggeratedly high, like a soaring glass mountain stretched up to infinity before the kids narrated.
The atheists among us grew moodier and less sure of themselves until finally in each scoffing heart was the floating, drifting, nagging suspicion. Well, you never can tell. It did not pay to take chances, and so we waited in line for our turn.
Behind Ralph and Randy, a skinny 7-year-old girl wearing a brown stocking cap and gold-rimmed glasses hits her brother steadily to keep them in line. He is wearing an aviator's helmet with goggles pulled down over his eyes. His galoshes are open and his maroon corduroy knickers are damp. Behind him, a fat boy is huge in a huge sheepskin coat, stands rumbling, his eyes watering in vague fear, his nose red and rumbling. The camera takes in long line, an uneven procession of stocking caps, mufflers, mittens. Santa Claus waits to sit, each in turn on his broad red knee. Over serpentine line roars a great sea of sound, tinkling bells, all kinds of Christmas sounds, ho-ho-hoing of jolly old St. Nick's. Ralph and Randy wind slowly through the tricycle and bicycle department, jostled and pushed by the hordes of kids behind them. Suddenly, they reach the head of the line, the foot of Mount Olympus itself. Santa's enormous, gleaming, white snowdrift of a throne soars 10 or 15 high above their heads on a mountain of red and green. Each kid in turn is prodded up a tiny staircase at the side of the mountain on Santa's left, as Santa passes his last customer onto his right and down a winding red chute, which gives the kid a little ride down to the floor level and back into oblivion for another year. Pretty ladies dressed in snow white costumes, gauzy gowns glittering with sequins and tiaras clipped to their golden artificial hair preside at the head of the line, directing traffic and keeping order. Randy begins to hang back, whining and whimpering steadily. Ralph herds him ahead of himself, while behind, the girl in the glasses does the same with her kid brother. Snow White grabs Randy's shoulders with an iron grip, launching him up the slope.
Get moving, kid! Quit dragging your feet!
From Ralph's POV, we see his brother's tiny yellow and brown stocking cap as it bobs on Santa's lap. What seems miles above the floor, we hear a thin, high trailing wail. Suddenly, the abyss opens before Randy. Snow White grabs his elbow with an iron claw, and Ralph begins to struggle upward toward the mountain top.
I have always felt that later generations of tots, products of less romantic upbringing, cynical non-believers in Santa Claus from birth, can never know the nature of the true dream. I was well into my 20s before I finally gave up on the Easter Bunny, and I am not convinced that I am the richer for it. I had long before decided to level with Santa, to really lay it on the line. No kid stuff. If I was going to ride the range with Red Ryder, Santa Claus is going to have to get the straight poop.
This Santa Claus is not the conventional department store Santa, but rather Santa as he is seen through a child's eyes. He is enormous, seemingly 8 feet tall, high, shiny black patent leather boots, a nimbus of snow white beard, and a real thrumming belt creaking stomach. His voice is amplified to a thundering pitch. He seems vast, immense, enormous, world-filling, God-like to the eyes of Ralph.
And what's your name, little boy?
Ralph quails as Santa reaches down and neatly hooks sheepskin's collar, swooping him upward. Ralph sits on Santa's huge knee, looking down and out over the endless expanse of Toyland and down to the tiny figures that wind off into the distance.
That's a fine name, little boy. What would you like for Christmas, little boy?
Ralph continues.
Uh,
My mind had gone blank. Frantically, I tried to remember what it was I wanted. I was blowing it.
Wouldn't you like a nice football?
My mind groped. Football. Football. What was a football? Without conscious will, my voice squeaked out.
yeah.
My God, a football.
Ralph is being slid off Santa's knee and deposited in the red chute for his slide to the ground floor. But just as he begins to slide, he comes to and, struggling frantically, claws his way back up to the lip of the chute and thrusts his face up over it desperately.
No, I want an official Red Ryder Cowboy in action 200-shot range model air rifle with a special sight and a compass in the stock with a sundial.
Santa looks in surprise at the absurd figure of Ralph clinging to the chute.
Well, spit your eye out, kid. Merry Christmas.
Santa reaches out gently with his boot and gives Ralph a little shove. We hear this no echo as he disappears.
Down the chute I went. I have never been struck by a bolt of lightning, but I know how it must feel. The back of my head was numb. My feet clanked leadenly beneath me as I returned to earth at the bottom of the chute.
Ralph meets Randy, who stands sniveling under a counter piled high with Raggedy Ann dolls. From nowhere, mother and father reappear.
Did you tell Santa what you wanted? Did he ask if you had been a good boy?
No.
Don't worry, he knows anyway. He knows.
Maybe that was it. My mind reeled with the realization that maybe Santa did know how rotten I had been and that the football was not only a threat, but a punishment. I could see that either my father or Santa, or perhaps both, were not content to let bygones be bygones.
Ralph looks hangdog. All hope is gone. The family, like a salmon swimming upstream, begin to struggle through the crowd to the front doors of the store. From the distance, we can still hear Santa Claus. Offstage. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Exterior, Parker House, night. The house is nestled in the snow. The night is crisp and brilliant. In the interior of the living room, Ralph, Randy, mother, father, night. Is after dinner. The family is trimming the tree on this most important of all nights, Christmas Eve. The tree, complete with a bare spot, which did not fluff out, is standing in its little red tin holder, fragrantly, towering, teeteringly. Father stands on a ladder, also teetering, stringing lights up to the top of the tree.
All right, plug him in.
Mother scrambled around, finds extension cord under the sofa, plugs in Christmas tree lights.
Son of a bento box.
What's the matter?
Them green ones ain't lit, damn it.
The green ones are lit. It's the blue ones.
Don't tell me, damn it.
The father scrambles down the ladder, gets a new bulb, runs up the ladder to the top of the tree, screws in the new bulb.
Okay, plug her in again.
The mother plugs in the string of lights into the extension.
Our entire world was strung together with extensions. Outlets in our house were rare and coveted.
The tree lights up, and the tree goes out. Lights blink and dim. The kitchen lights burn wildly for a moment, flickers and goes out.
Dang it.
And the father runs down the ladder, grabs the extension and unplugs the tree lights.
Get the extension from the toaster.
Ralph and Randy run to the kitchen.
Occasionally, in some houses, a critical point was reached.
Uh-oh.
More often blowing out the main fuse, plunging half the town into darkness.
Ralph and Randy return carrying the extension from the toaster.
Okay, come on, give it here. Let's go.
And father plugs the extension into a rat's nest of electrical junk, rams the plug from the tree into the extension, and hurries up the ladder.
Okay, plug it in.
Mother plugs it in. The Christmas tree lights up, The house remains lit.
My, isn't that pretty?
Son of a bitch.
The tree stands in all its splendid, fragrant beauty. Father comes down the ladder. The family stands in awed silence around the tree, drinking in its magnificent beauty.
Okay, give me the star.
All right. And Mother digs in the cardboard box, and Father climbs the ladder.
Be careful.
Oh, for Christ's sakes, I know what I'm doing.
Father leans over from the ladder and places the star at the top of the tree. For a moment, all hang suspended. The tree glows. Ralph and Randy admire. Mother nervously wrings her hands. Then slowly, majestically, the tree begins to tilt.
Oh, be careful.
Dang it. Son of a buckaroo bonsai.
Father grabs the top of the tree and shoves it back upright. The star is now noticeably cockeyed.
Ah, okay.
No, nobody mentions the crooked star.
Perfect.
He runs down the ladder, rubs his hands, and admires the tree. Mother sighs and wipes her hands on her apron. Mother glances at the clock.
Oh, goodness, look at the time. I hope Santa Claus hasn't had to pass up this house because some boys weren't in bed when he came by.
Yeah, I heard some sleigh bells a while back heading up the other side of the street.
I want to see Santa. I want to see Santa.
Randy dashes to the window.
Get up here, Santa. Ralphie said bad words twice, and I never said any.
Hey,
Hey,
Randy, Santa doesn't like tattletales.
Randy looks at them a moment of indecision flickers on his face. Then he turns back to the window.
but Ralphie didn't mean nothing, Santa.
Wheeler.
All right, you two, that's it. Up the stairs.
On
The
the
boys-
double.
The boys dash up the stairs. Mother and the old man look at one another. It's Ralph's bedroom at night. Ralph stares forlornly from his bed. We see the light snow falling outside his window. The camera moves in on his face.
Kid dreams die hard. Even though the official and final word had come down from Santa Claus himself, I found myself listening to some distant clamor of hope. After all, bears had been spotted down at Pulaski's candy store.
We're in Ralphie's bedroom again. It's morning. Ralphie stirs from his sleep. The bright light from the window makes him shield his eyes. He leans over the bed and peers out. The camera pans to look out the window into the backyard. An overnight ice storm has touched the neighborhood with a crystal wand. The morning sun sends sprays of colored light radiating from the gnarled silver icicles that cover everything. Trees, wires, eaves, fences. It is a fairy kingdom. Ralph turns away from the window.
Randy, come on.
Ralph and Randy stare in awe at the tree and the packages beneath it.
Santa Claus had come. My brother circled around the tree, moaning softly while I, cooler and more controlled, quickly eyed the mountain of revealingly wrapped largesse and knew the worst.
Mother and the old man enter behind them. They sit down and watch the kids' reaction to the presents.
Christmas had officially begun. We plunged into the cornucopia, quivering with desire and the ecstasy of unbridled avarice.
Ralph feverishly passes it. In the background on the radio, Lionel Barrymore's wheezy, friendly old voice speaks kindly of Bob Cratchit, Tiny Tim, and the ghost of old Marley. And Ralph grabs a package. It is tagged to Randy from Santa. Ralph feverishly passes it over to Randy and returns to work. He pulls out a largish, lumpy, red wrapped gift. We see the tag reads, to Ralphie, from Aunt Clara. Frantically, Ralph tears the wrappings off. It is a pair of slippers, bunny slippers. Ralph's mouth drops open.
Oh no, a pair of fuzzy, pink, idiotic, cross-eyed, lop-eared bunny slippers. Aunt Clara had for years labored under the delusion that I was not only perpetually 4 years old, but also a girl.
Oh, aren't they sweet? Aunt Clara always gives you the nicest presents. Put them on, see if they fit.
Ralph puts them on.
Immediately, my feet began to sweat as those two fluffy little bunnies with the blue button eyes stared sappily up at me, and I knew that for at least 2 years I would have to wear them every time Aunt Clara visited us. I just hoped that Flick would never spot them, as the word of this humiliation could easily make life at Warren G. Harding School a veritable hell.
Next to Ralph, Randy silently, doggedly strips package after package until he hits the Zeppelin.
Wow, a Zeppelin! Wow, whoopee!
And Randy launches it upward into the middle branches of the tree, and 2 glass angels and a golden bugle crash to the floor, and a string of lights winks out.
It's not supposed to fly, you nut.
Ah, what good is a Zeppelin that don't fly?
It rolls and beeps.
And Randy, on his knees, begins pushing Zeppelin, beeping fiendishly, propellers clacking madly across the living room rug.
It was a sound that was to become sickeningly familiar.
Randy continues to play with the Zeppelin, and Ralph opens more packages: a Sandy Andy, a dump truck, a Monopoly game, etc.
My brother's gift to me was the only bright spot in an otherwise remarkably mediocre haul. A rubber Frankenstein face.
Ralph immediately puts on the Frankenstein face.
Oh, how terrible. Take it off and put it away.
I think it looks good on him.
Ralph stands up, does his famous Frankenstein walk, clumping stiff-legged around the living room and back to the tree. And finally, it's all over. There are no more mysterious packages under the tree. Only a great pile of crumpled tissue, string, and empty boxes. Randy lies, dozing amid the rubble, the Zeppelin clasped in one of his hands and his new fire truck in the other.
There was no denying that I had scored heavily with the Simon Eyes and the Fly Swatter, as well as the Zeppelin. The joy of giving can uplift the saddened heart. But then it came. I must admit, I had been completely taken in.
Father leans forward in his easy chair, his 8th glass of wine. Said, good God, Dad. A glass of wine. He gets up unceremoniously and moves to the tree.
Say, don't I see something over there stuck behind the drapes? Why, I think there is something over there behind the drapes.
Ralph looks up, afraid to believe. He runs to the drapes and pulls them out. The stench of his father's alcoholic breath in his nose. Sure enough, there it is. A long, heavy, red-wrapped package. It is marked to Ralphie from Santa. Frantically, Ralph tears the wrappings off.
A Red Ryder carbine action range model BB gun.
Ralph makes inarticulate gasps of surprise and ecstasy.
Blue steel barrel, graceful and taut, its dark polished stock gleaming like all the treasures of the Western world. And there, burned into the walnut, his level gaze unmistakable, his jaw clean and hard, was Red Ryder himself. His face was even more beautiful and malevolent than the pictures in the advertisement showed.
Father grins broadly, expansively. Mother smiles a weak, doubtful smile. Over the radio thunders a 1,000-voiced heavenly choir. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Ralph digs back into the box, comes up with tubes of BBs and black and white printed targets.
I could hardly wait to try it out. But the instruction book said in Red Ryder's own words, "Kids, never fire a BB gun in the house. I never shoot anybody but bad guys, and I don't want any of my friends hurt."
All right, you try it out, but outside, and you be careful, Ralphie. I still say those things are dangerous.
Ralphie gathers up his booty and dashes out. The old man and mother look after him.
Don't shoot at birds or any animals.
Except Bumpus hounds.
Now hush. Ralphie, be careful.
By this time, Mother is in the kitchen, pulling a golden, succulent turkey out of the oven. She places it on the table. The old man pulls some skin away.
For heaven's sake, it's not even done yet. Now go read the funnies and let me work.
Now we're in the backyard.
I stood in the clean air, ready to consummate my great, long, painful, ecstatic love affair.
Ralph brushes snow off from front step, props up a gleaming red rider target, the black rings and bull's eyes standing out starkly against the snowy whiteness. He backs off into the snow a good 20 feet, slams the stock down onto his left kneecap, hooks his fingers into the icy carbine lever and cocks his blue steel beauty for the first time. Ralph sights over the barrel slowly. Slowly, he squeezes the frosty trigger back, and back.
For one instant, I thought wildly, it doesn't work. We'll have to send it back.
Crack! The gun jerks upward. Ralph's horn-rimmed glasses spin from his head into the snowbank. He stands paralyzed, not knowing what has happened. Blood trails down his cheek and onto the walnut stock of the Red Ryder BB gun. The BB has ricocheted off the tin target and struck Ralphie on the cheek. Finally, snapping out of his daze, Ralph scrambles around in the snow for his glasses. He finds them at last.
I'd done it. I shot my eye out. I knew immediately that I had not shot my eye out, but the glasses were another story. They were pulverized. Few things in those times brought such swift and terrible retribution on a kid as the pair of busted glasses. The left lens was out as clean as a whistle, and for a moment I thought, I'll fake it. They'll never know the lens is gone. But then, gingerly fingering my rapidly swelling black eye, I realized that here was a shiner on the way that would top even the one I got from Grover Dill.
Back door opens just a crack. Ralph can see the blur of his mother's Chinese red Chanel bathrobe.
Be careful, don't shoot your eye out.
She hadn't seen. She didn't know. Rapidly, my mind evolved a spectacular plot. It would work. It had to work.
Ralph dashes into the house, meets Mother right inside the door. Mother sees his broken glasses, sees the long, bloody scrape on his cheek.
There was this icicle, and it fell and it hit the gun. And then this icicle, the gun flew up and it bounced up and it cut. And I tried to get out of the way, but the icicle fell off the roof and hit the gun and it bounced up and hit me in.
I began to cry, faking it at first.
And it fell off the roof and
in the bathroom with Ralph and his mother. Mother leads Ralph into the bathroom, wets washcloth in cold water, puts it on Ralph's cheek. Ralph still clutches BB gun to his chest.
There now, see, it's just a little bump. You're lucky you didn't cut your eye. Those icicles sometimes even kill people. You're really lucky. Here, hold this rag on it.
I had pulled it off.
Old
What's
man.
going on? Nothing. We'll be right down and stay away from that turkey. It has to cook for another hour. You'll get worms.
Now it is well known throughout the Midwest, the old man is a turkey junkie, a bona fide Gala Turkicanus freak. A few days before Christmas, his eyes would begin to gleam with a wild and ravenous light. Every few hours, he would check his carving set to make sure the knife was honed, the fork tined sharp.
All right, in the kitchen, we see the old man leaning over the turkey, drawing a long, deep draft of turkey essence into his nostrils. He glides back to his chair and sits taking up the sports page with great satisfaction. We're back in the bathroom. Mother is still cleaning Ralphie's wounds.
Life is like that. Sometimes at the height of our reveries, when our joy is at its zenith, when all is most right with the world, the most unthinkable disasters descend upon us.
We hear a huge crash, followed closely by another, then a thundering bellow from the old man.
Oh,
Living room day, we see the old man peering in horror over his newspaper. After a beat, we see what the tragedy is. A blur streaks by the foreground of our shot. The old man stares. Then another blur whizzes by. Then another, and we realize we were seeing the Bumpus hounds. Now the whole pack roars past. The old man scrambles to his feet.
Holy Christ! The turkey! The turkey! Oh, Scott, the turkey!
He races for the kitchen just in time to see the dogs leap upon the table, grab the 12-pound turkey, and in a mass of snarling fury, disappear through the kitchen door, all but taking it off the hinges. Ralphie, Randy, and Mother arrive just in time to see the old man staring out of the door as the sound of the hounds recedes in the distance. Finally, the old man turns and walks back into the kitchen. He stands looking down at the big sheet of wax paper, dripping with warm turkey gravy and big clumps of oyster stuffing.
The heavenly aroma still hung heavy in the house, but it was gone, all gone. No turkey sandwiches, no turkey salad, no turkey gravy, turkey hash, turkey a la king, or gallons of turkey soup. Gone, all gone. The old man came as close to crying as I'd ever seen him come.
The old man stands there, quivering with frustration. Finally,
Get your coats. We're going to the Chinese joint. We're going to have chop suey.
the old man exits. The old man exits with a flourish. The camera holds on Mother, Ralphie, and Randy. They stare.
We understood, naturally. There was no other restaurant open on Christmas Day, but it went deeper than that. But we understood.
The Chinese restaurant at dusk. We hear a faint Chinese tune emanating from the restaurant. We're across the street looking in at the family. They are the only customers. The happy Chinese family hover around them. Two waiters come marching out with wilted potted palm dotted with a sad string of colored lights. They are followed by a waiter carrying a tray bearing a large duck. The tree is placed before the family. We hear an exchange. Then the old man begins to beam. The family digs in.
That Christmas would live in our memories as the Christmas when we were introduced to Chinese turkey. All was right with the world.
We dissolve to the house at night. It nestles sleepily in the snow. And then into the interior of Ralph's bedroom at night. He lies awake, a smile on his face.
Next to me in the blackness lay my oiled blue steel beauty, the greatest Christmas gift I had ever received. Gradually, I drifted off to sleep, praying ducks on the wing and getting off spectacular hip shots as I dissolved into nothingness.
The interior living room night. The lights are dim. Only the Christmas tree glows, its icicles reflecting the multicolored bulbs. The gentle sounds of Silent Night swell softly from the Crosley Cathedral radio. Mother has cleared away the last of the debris. She crosses the room to where the old man sits, luxuriating in the glow of the wine and the moment. Mother stops and looks down at the old man. For these brief moments, all is right with the world. They look at one another with a oneness of satisfaction that comes rarely to any of us. It is a nice moment, simple, uncontrived, and affecting. Mother sits beside the old man and their hands entwine, and they share. No words are necessary. In the interior of Ralphie's bedroom, the room is dark. We hear a faint sound like a beeping. Camera dollies toward the sound. We can make out a figure under the covers. The beeping sound gets louder. As we near the bed, Randy suddenly pops out from under the covers and looks around furtively and comically for a moment. Then he lifts his Zeppelin from under the covers and whirls it through the air a couple of times, then ducks quickly beneath the blanket and continues his joyous journey with his magical Zeppelin. Camera pans slowly over to the sleeping Ralph. All blue lies across his chest. The strains of Silent Night float gently up to us.
Sleep in heavenly
Sleepy. The end. Woo!
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Have a holly
God bless us, everyone.
Ho,